Hello, 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 and welcome. You are here sitting with us at the Mystic Nerd Squad podcast. I am delighted and just overjoyed to have my friend Dianna Leeder of Crave More Life here with us today. Dianna and I have been friends, I think, for a couple years, although it feels like old friends at this point.
It,
The timeline is like, where did we meet? When did we? I don't know. We're just really good friends.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. We just keep kind of popping in, right? We pop into each other's
Yes,
places. Yes, yeah.
absolutely. And I think the thing is, the community of women and heart centered men who have kind of gravitated toward each other over the past couple years, spiritual entrepreneurs, we are all just so in it for each other and lighting other people up and giving people a voice. So what I want to show you up above my head over there, you'll see this lovely book, the second volume of Find Your Voice, Save Your Life. And Dianna started that project, and I was lucky enough to be part of the second volume. If you haven't checked out those books, you need to. Absolutely. The women and men who have written in those books and are writing in those books are getting to a place of vulnerability. And Dianna is so supportive and wonderful with her authors that you feel this comfort and safety in being able to get out there and share your stories, some of them stories that have never been shared before. So it's such a special project. You're such a special person, and I'm so happy to have you here with me this morning.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. That's beautiful. And I feel the same about you. We kind of come in and then we go, and then we come in and then we go. But I know that I can reach out anytime, and I feel that you can too. And yes, this community is really built for people like you and I who, we are glued in some way, I think, in the community. And then we stretch and we come back, and yeah, it's a beautiful community. And I want to say I adore that book behind you. It's really, oh my goodness, it's just great. And I was very honored to have you be part of it. Yeah, and as you said, there's such an impact when we tell our stories, and holding space for that is so important. Not just, and I have to say, it's not just for you. I mean, I feel good when I do that. So I'm selfishly doing this for myself, right? Um, so that's been a beautiful ride, and I just want to put a little plug in that number 4, Transcendent Men: Real Stories, is coming out in August. So yeah, take a look for that when it comes out. It's really powerful. Yeah, really
I
powerful.
I can't wait to read that one. I think this is, it's sort of become like this very exciting time where we can embrace, both female, male energies, and the healing process, and find the ways in which we're so much more similar than different as human beings. And that identity of, women are the ones going through the spiritual journey, and men are sort of like, they're stuck, they don't understand, and that's just not true. And I think it's just such a beautiful thing for you to open up that space for men to be able to tell their stories. And how brave and powerful is that? I can't wait. I'm really excited.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Thank you.
we talked about a bunch of different things we could talk about on the podcast. And even as we were, greeting each other and saying hello, we were getting into our science and our spiritual brains because this is what we love. This is what we enjoy. So when you told me that our topic was going to be being where we are, I just felt so lit up by that idea. So where did that come from? How did you come up with the idea of talking about being where we are?
It came from our own spirituality, wherever we are with our level of spirituality, or our level of ascension. That's been a lesson that I have learned, since my gifts started to come online. But I want to say that there's for me, there's always the spiritual, but there's always the practical too. Like, I'm a very practical, I'm very grounded. If it doesn't, I say this all the time, if my next door neighbor can't understand it, then we need to change the verbiage so that they do. So because all of this needs to come together as one. No more
Yeah.
you're spiritual, you're not. We're all spiritual, as you were saying earlier. We're all energy. So I think it's really important to recognize both of those sides and try to bring it together a little bit.
Yeah. And it's just reminding me how much I love you and how much I really resonate with that, and that it doesn't have to be this thing that some of us get to do and the rest of us have to sort of put our head down and dig in and do what we're doing. But there's something to be said about, being present and in the moment and accepting ourselves fully and bravely. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I should probably change my own words and stop calling them spiritual gifts, because they're really not gifts. They are part of our energy, and I think from my understanding, they come as as we ascend up, as we are more connected. So it's not like you're different because you have them, I'm different because I have them. We're not. Everybody is different, and our connection is different based on our acceptance of who we are. I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah. I feel like for me, it's been more so uncovering versus discovering. Like, it's already been there. It's already who I was. And the life journey takes us in different places. And sometimes those things that just are inherently who we are so subject to conditioning and to, putting us in a place of hiding who we really are, because it's often not safe or uncomfortable for the people around us, especially as children. Was that your experience as a child?
No, you know what? I was totally shut off well, not shut off. I was totally blind to it as a child. It wasn't until it's been fairly recent, like the last few years, that I came to understand that, oh, okay, that's why this happens for me. So undoubtedly it was there it was there the whole time. I didn't recognize it. So, and that's kind of the piece about just, being okay with where we are. You wouldn't have, if you hadn't been in a space where you recognize what was happening and recognize the differences in in you and the shifts that were happening for you, you may not have ever come to the point where you are today with your own spiritual gifts. I have to think of a better word. Yeah, it does come back to being who we are, being okay with who we are, and not rushing the process. And I think that's true in anything in life, but particularly, spiritually, we can't rush the process. We can only be right here, right now.
Yeah. So how did that journey start for you? How did you find yourself going from, being subject to the conditioning of others to really accepting who you were and becoming more brave with being out about that?
Right. So it was a few years ago. I recognized that the things that had been happening for me for a long time were actually channeled, or they were because of a connection to spirit. That's when I read, and part of it was this community, being part of the community, and seeing how other people operated, and the kinds of things that they were able to do, and the more I thought about it and the more I understood it, because I'm not I love to learn, but I'm not going to sit down with a textbook. I'm done that. So to sit and read something about the science of whatever is not really what I'd rather go play with my grandbabies, actually. So, but so I mean, I certainly did my own research, but it was more practical research, I think. I did
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of sessions with people who helped me connect. I have seen the same medium for well over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and she's amazing, and she really started this process for me, that kind of awakening, because when my mother passed almost 30 years ago now, she helped me connect with her. And I remember, and it's actually, I wrote about this in book 3, that when I was in a session with her, and she made some reference to my mom, and I said, "Tell her I love her," and she said, "I don't need to tell her; she can hear you."
Mm.
So I got the chills just from
Mm.
that. So she must be here with us. That's kind of one of my signs. So that was for me a huge understanding that, okay, this is not over there somewhere. This is something that I have access to as well. And the more I considered all the things that had been true for me for a long, long time, being able to walk into a room and knowing the energy that I needed to sit beside,
Mm.
and consciously avoiding the energy that I knew would be uncomfortable,
Mm.
that kind of thing. Being able to just know what my kids needed to hear in the moment that they needed to hear it. Have that knowing. That's a big one for me too. The chills are part of it. The knowing is there.
Yeah.
And being able to go, and this has always been a bit of a challenge for me. The meditation is always, frankly, has, I know everybody is like into it knee deep, and I love it when I go deep. It's, I have to work at that. That doesn't come easy to me because I'm a doer, right? Because my brain goes and goes and goes. So I have to work hard at that. And when I have, it's, the results have been amazing, of course. But that is when, if there's something that is really, really serious happening in my life, something that I really need some immediate guidance with, then I will hear. I will hear a statement. I have a connection to the Palladians, and
Mm.
because it's not always something that's serious in a negative way. I have these dance parties in my kitchen every day, and they show up then. They show up then. So just before Christmas, I'm at my computer and I'm cramming to get all this stuff done to be able to take a, and I hear, "And may we go shopping?" So it's like, oh yeah, okay, I know who that is. In this playful kind of up-leveled voice. So sadly, I didn't get to go shopping, but not that day anyway. But so it's being okay when those things happen, and being okay recognizing the things that have always been part of us, the things that we just know about ourselves, and trusting that, and trusting our intuition.
Yeah.
That whole thing about trust your gut, it's really true.
Oh my gosh.
Trust what you're getting, and roll with it. You can't make any mistakes. You
Yeah.
can't. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a hard lesson to learn, isn't it? I mean, I'm speaking specifically for myself, being someone who kind of became a perfectionist in my life. And so, like, I was always afraid to make a mistake. And you know what happens then? Then it's analysis paralysis and freeze and procrastination. And you just don't do anything because you're afraid it's not going to be good enough or you're going to disappoint someone, So I think that for me is something so exciting about this phase of my life, where exactly as you said, like trusting your gut, trusting your intuition. What I learned, and I never knew, is that your intuition is a pretty quiet voice. It's a pretty level-headed voice, different from the voices we hear that are those repetitive thoughts in our head. Mm-hmm. But it takes that stillness and that intention, to go back to what you said, being where we are to be, to really hear it. So how did you learn to really settle in and find that connection more to your intuition to kind of guide you, especially, you're doing so many amazing things out in the world as a spiritual entrepreneur. So how do you do that?
So my intuition doesn't come as a voice. It comes as that knowing. So it's a matter of paying attention. Instead of kind of, as we do when our brain is going and going and going, we skip from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing, and we don't stop with one. So that's my practice, is just stop. Just wait and listen. And for instance, this morning when I was meditating, I asked a question, and the response that I had, right here, that I got very clearly was, draw a card. So I got to show you this, because you'll giggle at this. So here's the card that I pulled. Where are we going here?
You've got the power. I love it. I hear the song in my head. You've got the power.
Yeah, that's right. I might dance to that later in my kitchen. I don't know.
Oh, you totally should.
Yeah. So it is, stopping at that one place, and just letting it, just being right there. You don't have to judge anything. You don't have to worry about anything. You just have to. And for me, I like to feel the presence embody me. So it is that place of just being calm from head to toe, and quite frankly, and I know a really great meditator does not need to do this, but I put on noise canceling earphones, because I hear the traffic, I hear the birds. I love the birds, but sometimes then I start thinking about the birds, right? And I'll think about you in a minute. I want to just focus on this, right? So I do what I can to be right there.
Yeah. I love that, and I feel like that's such a great first practice for someone who is feeling disconnected, and I can relate to that feeling of disconnection and finding that stillness. And I know for me, same as you said, that morning time, that potency of stillness before checking in on Facebook or, starting to get to the to-do list, but just like getting into that juicy stillness, because it feels so good. And I think it's because we've been so conditioned to do and to move and to, keep going, that stopping, being still, taking a moment, breathing, and going really deeply into that has become something that was maybe not as desirable, but I find it's just the most amazing practice. And it's simple and it's free.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is a practice, it doesn't just come automatically to everyone. So as you heard, so yeah, we need to give ourselves permission to do that. It's another, and I think we've had this conversation before about self-care. I don't like that term, because I feel like it has that connotation of painting nails, but self-nourishing care, like to really know that whatever we're doing is feeding us, that feeds us. That calms us, that gives us a minute to get out of the worry, not even jumping into it for, whatever you do later, do, go ahead and do it, but stop for at least that time. And I find, and this is an interesting one for me too, because my mind races, I've had to work hard to wait for the answer to my questions. Because I in conversation, so how are you? I'm waiting. Yeah, you're going to answer me right away, right?
Right.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. Calm the down, Dianna. Just wait. Just surrender to it, and take the goodness that comes from that.
Yeah, I really love what you said. Just before there about that connotation of self-care. Now it's like the buzzword, right? So those of us who have been like deeply invested in the self-care for a while, now it's sort of like, oh, well, it means these things and it's selfish and whatever other conditioning is around self-care. But I love that you said self-nourishment, and like what came into my mind immediately was nourish thyself.
Mm.
and mind, body, spirit needs nourishment. And it's so holistic. It's not just, what are you literally feeding yourself? What are you feeding your brain? What are you feeding your body? What are you feeding your spirit? And how are you, connecting in? Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you for that. I think that's great. Maybe the conversation needs to be more towards self-nourishment rather than, self-care, being a little
Yeah.
more clear about what is self-care. What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because just as you said, it is all about what we feed ourselves. And that's vital because if we don't feed ourselves, we're not getting fed, period.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a big one, and you know this. It's a big one for women for sure, and
Yes.
men in a very different way. But yeah, yeah, it's a big one. Yeah, it's also something that is it has been hijacked. The term has been hijacked. Yeah. So if we have to create a new term, then let's create a new term.
I know. Don't I know it? I'm all about the self-care.
You
And
are, yeah,
yeah, and
stuff is
and
great.
going super duper deep into what that really means. It's such a broader topic than just getting your nails done or a pedicure or massage. Although I highly recommend doing those as well.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
the stillness, what are you feeding your brain? Super important.
yeah.
Yeah.
Someone actually, someone actually had a really good way of describing, doing those kinds of things that most people think are feeding, and in some level they are, because you are there, you're in a different space, you're doing something different, you're making the conscious choice to do something for yourself. But this comment, I thought this was so great, and I'll have to think about who it was that said this to me. But it's not necessarily about what you're doing, but what you're doing while you're doing that. So when you are getting a pedicure, are you on your phone? Are you or are you connecting with the other person that's there helping you, or are you taking that time to just enjoy the stillness and enjoying the beauty that your fingers and toes look like by the time you're done. So I really liked that very much resonated with me.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead and do those things, but consider what else you're doing while you are engaging in that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's such a good point, that intentionality. I also think, the other piece or complementary practice to self care is self soothing. And I think sometimes they can get confused. And sometimes the self soothing needs to come before the self care. So, like, the self care is not opening that pint of ice cream and eating the whole thing, but that might be a really good self soothing practice that, kind of offers up what your inner self is really needing, so that you can then get to the actual self care, which might be like, okay, well, then now tomorrow is when I'm going to start my exercise routine back up again. But today, I just need to like get into my body and do something that feels really good. And then I can go towards the self care. Have you found that to be true?
I have. I think that there is a lot of learning for us to do in terms of that, having that consideration, because we're kind of, for me, it's kind of dealing with two different things. So because I think the self-soothing is looking for some healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's looking for that comfort, it's looking for some healing, and that can go to, from having a little bit of ice cream to the whole pint, or a glass of wine to a bottle of wine or whatever. So it becomes conscious. So if we're if our self-soothing is conscious, I think it's awesome, because yeah, sometimes we just want to relax, be right in that moment, and so, when we're eating that ice cream, how about we just stop and really taste what it's like, what's in it. I wonder what that flavor is. And how connoisseurs of food will will tell you, or fine wine will tell you, oh, I taste a bouquet of whatever.
Right.
I've never quite gotten there myself. I just, if it tastes good, I'm good. So, to do that for ourselves in whatever we do, what's in there, what's the, let's be conscious about what we do, no matter what it is, for whatever reason.
Right.
Yeah, which is being where we are.
Exactly.
Right? It all comes down to the same thing.
Yeah.
Allowing ourselves to be where we are.
Yeah. I love that conscious presence. And we have like a really nice active Facebook group this morning, and they're sharing. I believe it's Jen Pisano saying, to me, it's not self-care. This is my lifestyle. My lifestyle is that I savor life and nurture myself with simple pleasure, soul enrichment practices, and all the delicious things. I love that. So you know what? It's making me wonder, like, I'll just throw myself under the bus. When I'm really reaching for those things that are more self-soothing than self-care, that maybe are not in alignment with self-care practices for physical health, it's because I've been so detached and I haven't been as present in my life as I needed to be. Right. Too much in my head, which is something that I've always sort of struggled with and had to work through.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Exactly. I want to say too that one of the things that I've been doing is certifying Find Your Voice healers. And within that training, and this is something that I do in one-to-one work, is to, teach that, we can't be ourselves unless we know who we are. So if we are kind of jumping in and deciding what is, what's self-soothing, what's self-care, without that kind of basic understanding of what we need, like Jen's comment was perfect. She's obviously given that some thought and knows exactly what she needs from in here. Mm-hmm. If we're not there, then we're not as likely to be able to discern the difference between the two. Right. Yeah. So know yourself to be yourself. And then, and that's a huge process, it's huge. And it changes every day. Mm-hmm. It does. Well, you know what? I don't think the tomatoes work so well for me anymore. I guess I won't eat them anymore, or whatever it is, something that on the surface or something much deeper. I think we just need to really take that time again, be who we are. Who are we?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I love that you that you also said, like, knowing yourself isn't necessarily something so simple. It takes some uncovering and discovering and searching for some of us, but I love being part of this community where that soul searching is a norm. Everybody's doing it, and everybody's okay with where they are in their journey and okay with witnessing you being in your journey. And I think for me, that has been one of the most impactful things over the past couple of years, like really just become part of a greater community of people who believe that diving deep in is just what we're here to do. And it's never a perfect process. It's not linear.
Absolutely.
But it's worth it, right?
Oh, totally worth it. And yes, it's never perfect. We always have room to grow. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And when there are, the richness in this community is so great that, I know that there are so many people that I can reach out to if I need to, that, and people that know that they can reach out to me if I can offer them something as well. And that's beautiful. I mean, that's true friendship, spiritual or not, that's friendship.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. These people are my sisters. I feel the spiritual connection is so strong. And that is honestly why I wanted to do this podcast, just to put all of these wonderful people out in the world for our voices to be more clear. And I think some of these messages, like you said, for people who maybe can't connect to the idea of spiritual gifts, can't seem to find their way, like there is a way, and there are people here to help you. And for sure, you're definitely one of those. You know, the whole writing to heal process is a big piece of things.
Yeah, that's a fun group. And yeah, you're right. It's so important because not everybody wants to be in a book. You know, not everyone has that as a goal. So to be able to offer something to them was really big for me. I still have a couple of spots coming up in the next class. If anybody's interested, just give me a shout. And I, in terms of the spiritual stuff, because I know we're probably getting pretty close to time, but I wanted to ask something because it kept coming back to me today. There are things that, my mind goes to crazy places sometimes, of course, but I want to know, and if we have other spiritual people in the audience, obviously Jen is there and maybe more, I want to know if, what the take is on Brooke Shields. Do you think that maybe back in the day, are you old enough to know Brooke Shields?
Yeah.
Right. Yes. So back in the day, she had the best eyebrows. So do you think that was channeled for her back then? Because that was unusual. That was that was not typical for the day. Everybody else was go with the little thin ones, and now we're all painting them back in because we lost what we had. So that's just the kind of fun stuff that comes up for me when I start thinking about did Brooke Shields, was she channeling those eyebrows? Was that actually happening?
Yeah. Well, and that's now I'm very curious, of course. Jen said she's definitely old enough. Same. But that's such a great thing because, it makes me think for those people who are so out loud with their identity, even in the face of not being similar to everyone around them, like, was it channeled? Like, what was it that made it okay and comfortable for them to be who they were, no matter what other people would say? Because I'm sure there were lots of people saying, what is wrong with her eyebrows? Why are they like that?
No kidding. Yeah, in the day, I remember that.
Yeah. I love that you brought up Brooke Shield and her eyebrows. This is really like, I'm giggling a little bit. You already told me you were feeling a little silly today, so this is good. Absolutely. I like it. It makes me think like, yeah, I think there have been people who have been so comfortable and confident in their own skin that they just were willing to be out there. Yeah. So Brooke, if you're listening, please let us know.
Let us know, and yay you. And
yay you. Yeah. We're celebrating your eyebrows, and yeah, everybody is into that now. Like, right.
Yes.
So
for sure.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. and I think it is part of just this like global journey that we're on in terms of healing and becoming more okay with being who we are, being open to a wide range of identities and not saying you're either this or that it is a spectrum of identity for wherever you want to place that. And we don't need to all look, act, feel the same way to be worthy. And I applaud anyone who is pushing towards that willingness to be more accepting and more open. I know that's something that's super important to me. And not only for the community at large, but for myself, because I feel like I was, a little bit of in that spiritual closet, and like I can nerd out on the science and people are gonna be like, oh yeah, that's okay, like we can accept that, but I can't nerd out on talking about things that are of the woo or the mystical nature, because that's just a little weird and unacceptable. But it lights me up. So we should all feel that comfort of, can we go there and the things that light us up and just be loud and proud about it? regardless of whether other people can fully relate.
Yeah. You know what? I think you need to bring it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's any other room for it. It's kind of like any difference that we may feel between us and someone else. If it's a conversation worth having, if you are invested in that relationship, then by all means, by all means. And even if they don't get it, the relationship will determine whether or not they want to know more or they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we figure that out as we go. I've told all kinds of people, and they kind of, some of them will get into conversations. Some of them just kind of, okay.
Mm.
And then that's the end of it. Right. And that's okay. That's where they are. But I want to, and I want to kind of bring in that practical piece that I mentioned earlier, because that's always so important to me. One of the things that I learned early on, and I love, is that all Spirit wants of us is to be true to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're true to ourselves, we are high vibe. We're able to share that truth. We're able to share that goodness and that unconditional love with other people. And then they can go ahead and do what they need to with it, and hopefully share it with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what, for me, that's what opens up our gifts,
Yes.
that's, being there. So it is, we do have more of a connection than sometimes we think with, between people that are spiritual, people who feel they're not. We really have more in common than what we think.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree. I think the more that we are acting as ourselves, it gives other people permission to be themselves. And I feel like that's the community that we're growing, and that's the world that we're fostering, that people can just be who they are. We don't have to fit inside little boxes. We don't have to tick off the boxes. This was always my thing. I grabbed on early on, like, oop, I'm supposed to do this, and this, and in this particular order. And once I check off all those boxes, then I get to be happy.
Not before.
Not before.
After.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That like quote unquote very like masculine energy of getting things done. But it was, for me personally, at the sacrifice of my physical, mental health, and really felt disconnected from who I truly was. So it was building this self-loathing. And so that's the thing that I think gets me excited now about being out loud. I mean, I've written in 4 books. I'm writing in another one with Jen Pisano, Wealth Codes. And, being out loud about your story bravely, those brave words that Laura DeFranco talks about, is very liberating and feels like where I'm supposed to be right now. That I can release perfectionism and I can just tell my true story and be truly who I am in the moment. And, we talked earlier about connecting, meditating this morning, and connecting with spirit guides, whatever that happens to be, inner self, higher self. And the message for me was, wherever you are, just go deeper in that. Go deeper. If you're going to rest, just rest like it's the most delicious rest you've ever had. Don't just relax, just like really seep into it with as much as you can. If you're going to be exercising, be present. If you're going to do laundry, be there. And so I think, speaking to the practical, I think that's a piece of it too. That presence and where you are, be there, be in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that is going to be something that people won't get.
Yeah.
And that's common for all of us. It is just being there. It is. Yeah. I'm not sure about the laundry piece. I might skip over that one, but no. But being there, I under
Right.
you. I'm kidding
I
because
love
yes,
it.
I actually like to do laundry. Yes.
It's the dishes.
It's the dishes. Yeah, it's the dishes. It's the toilets. Yep, 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 yep.
I don't,
Lots of things for
it's
me, but
so funny. So funny. Yeah. Well, and you know what? There's a hack for that too. That's where I love to hijack my brain. And so it becomes, okay, you don't enjoy doing the dishes, but what if you could put on some 70s classic rock and dance around the kitchen while you're doing the dishes, and it becomes something enjoyable, pairing that pleasurable. That's, hijack your nervous system, trick yourself into believing this is what you really love to do.
but that's it. Like that's exactly what you were talking about earlier, in terms of self-care. That's
Yeah.
right there in that moment. Let's make this enjoyable. What are we focusing on? What are we thinking about? What are we feeling right then? So yeah, dance your pants off while those dishes are, you're doing the dirtiest pot you can, just crank them, crank those tunes and go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, 70s classic rock. Yes,
I
that's
know. It's
that's
it's my
pretty
jam.
amazing.
That's my jam
Yeah,
if I really need to like get myself into it.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love this. So I want to give you some time to talk about all of the wonderful things you're doing, the ways people can connect with you, how they can work with you. So, what do you have coming up?
Oh my goodness. So, book four, as I said, is in the works. The chapters will be submitted this coming week. So
Oh
that's pretty
wow.
exciting. And yeah, they're amazing. Oh my gosh, they're so amazing. They are reminding me that this book is not just for men, that it is also it's also for women, because women will see a different kind of man on these pages because of the work that they have done. And we can look for, those of us that are looking for a partner can look for a man with those traits. We don't have to settle. There are, there are men out there that have combined some of the divine feminine with the divine masculine, and are able to be different, and to be more and more in relationships. So that's what I'll say about that. That guy's coming out in August. So yeah, very very excited about that. This coming week actually is the beginning of our Writing for the Heal of It class for this, and it will repeat as well. Still have a spot or two left there. So, if you're interested in that, it's 6 weeks, 2 hours every week. And we go into not, it's deep work, but it's deep work that you are, that you identify that you're ready for.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, come in here, we're going to make you cry. We're going to, we're going to take you right down to the trenches. No, we're going to, I'm going to softly take you to where you really, you identify that you want to be, and just to release what's there, so you write
Mm-hmm.
about it, you release it, you write some more, and so it's all driven by you. So it's not tough work at all. It's very Taurus energy, I'll say.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and what else? The certification program will repeat in September. Um, I don't have anything out about that yet, but it's coming really soon, and that is certifying healers, people that are already in healing professions, holistic healing professions, to in Find Your Voice. So they become certified Find Your Voice healers. And the biggest kind of bonus of that, from my take, is that it allows people like yourself, or people who have a modality that they use, or a gift again that they use in their work now. They can take that, and they can either plug it into the model that I teach them, in terms of working with their clients, or they can plug the model into what they do already. So it's very integrative. Lots of good feedback on it, and I just love. We have kind of a continuous working relationship with the certified folks, and so I love to see what they do with it, and and it's both, because it's Find Your Voice. It's both. professional and personal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that we ever get to a point where we are, we've gotten here. We have our voice. We found our voice. That's it. I'm done. I'm good. No, there are always levels, like with any other growth, right? There are always levels that we decide that we need to shift into. So yeah, that's the Find Your Voice Healer certification, and I'm pumped about that. And I am considering. So if anybody has any interest in this, I'm considering book 5, and I'm considering it to be about relationships. So the 1 + 1 = 3 concept. And I know there are couples out there who can resonate with that.
Oh my gosh, that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
So would you have like the couple writing the chapter together?
I don't think so. I hadn't considered that, but perhaps. My thought was one or the other, so it doesn't doesn't have to be women necessarily, but if guys want to talk about how did they make it work? How did they get to that place of having that relationship as a separate entity? One that grows and is equally loving and supportive of both of the ones, 1 + 1s. We get to be whole, the other partner gets to be whole, and that third entity is the relationship. So how do we get there? How did you get there? So anyway, that's going to be fun. So if that happens, it'll be next year. I haven't just kind of dropped the hammer on that one quite yet, but that's going through my mind. So if that's something that resonates with anybody, then find me, because I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear kind of your experience with it, and that'll help me.
Oh my gosh.
Hit the hammer.
That sounds so exciting, so needed. So you have to promise to come back and talk about that when that's about to launch and you're looking for people, because I think that could be a whole podcast conversation too, how 1 + 1 can = 3 in relationships. I would love to dive deep into that conversation.
Cool.
Wow.
Do that too with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So my stuff is, you can find me at Dianna@cravemorelife.com, 2 N's. And, yeah, I'm happy to hear from anybody. I do one-to-one. I do limited one-to-one work because the other projects keep me busier. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
Oh my gosh, Dianna, I'm so thrilled that you were here with me this morning. I think we dove into some really good topics and provided some practical options for people to be more present in their lives. I want to thank all of my Facebook viewers who are participating, Jen Pisano, and she did come up with a good term for our spiritual gifts. She said your superpowers, which I think is fantastic. I love that idea.
Leave it to Jen. Love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
She's great Jen. With words.
She is. Awesome author. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really appreciate that. That participation is super fun. And I want to thank all of you for listening, for supporting this podcast, for getting really close to 300 downloads, which is like mind-blowing for me for this podcast. It started with just an idea. And I do have to shout out Jen Pisano, who kind of like kicked me in the butt and was like, just do it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to just do it. And I wanted to let people know, if you're interested in podcasting, you have an idea and you've never started the process to dive into it, I am now offering a service where I will help you and coach you through from, your concept to getting you on air, and we'll cover everything. So by the time we're done working together, your podcast is launched and ready to go. So I'll have information on that in the show notes, all the information on Dianna, and I only bring the best people on here. So you can rest assured anything you do with Dianna is going to be of the highest caliber and for your highest good. And I thank you again for being here, for being my friend, for all your support. And I celebrate you. I'm so excited for everything coming next for you.
Thank you, Kelly. I really appreciate it. I love you, and you're a joy, and what you bring to the world is amazing. So thank you for having me on, and for being my friend.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, gonna make me cry here. All right.
In the moment, Kelly, in the moment.
Always, right? Here I am. I'm feeling it. My heart is swelling and overwhelmed. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. I encourage you to stay curious. You never know where that curiosity is going to lead you. Have a great one, guys. Bye for now.